Welcome to Podheim, Jiroc's Valheim podcast. Let's give him the business.
Hey everybody, today is April 12th, 2022. I'm your host, Jiroc the Viking, and joining me today are my fellow Vikings, Gwen the Shield Maiden.
Hi.
Jarl Tolkus.
Yoo-hoo.
And Shield Maiden, Morning Darkness.
Hello.
Have you ever been doing something inside your house, then notice that your body is emitting little gray clouds while red numbers are floating up past your head? That's because you're giving yourself the business with a house that isn't properly ventilated. Well, we're going to give you the business too, and we promise that afterwards you won't smell like Gwen. I mean, you won't smell like a campfire, right, Gwen?
We don't talk about that.
Wanted to talk about quickly a couple of videos that I released this week in case you've missed them. There was a patch that came out, 0.208.1, and it did a bunch of quality of life and other little fixes. One of them was tombstones getting stuck into trees and whatnot, so I have a video on that full patch. But I also released a video on the fix for the troll stagger. Now, everybody was asking me about it, and they were asking, well, what was that actual stagger problem? And it has nothing to do with the shield. If you blocked properly with a shield or a buckler, the troll would get staggered. It didn't work, though. The troll would not get staggered if you sneak attacked it, if you surprise attack. But now in this latest patch, they fixed that. So now if you sneak attack a troll, surprise attack it, it does get properly staggered instead of just instantly turning around and whacking you. And I have a video for that. I have another video on showing when you upgrade a weapon that it used to, you'd select which weapon you want to upgrade, you hit upgrade, and then it would unselect that weapon. So you had to go back up and select it again. And that caused a lot of problems where people, it's just annoying having to do a bunch of clicks. But I don't know. I found myself somehow ending up back in the crafting menu and then crafting the item instead of upgrading it and then wasting materials. So there's a video on that fix and how that works now. And then we just released recently a bonus podcast with the second part of the Jonathan JS Mars interview, who's one of the programmers over at Iron Gate. And he talked about a lot of fun things. We talk about throwing axes and reworking old dungeons, the giant caves that came in the Frost Cave update. The continuing debate that goes on over Iron Gate about whether or not they should be players should be allowed to build in dungeons or not. It seems like some of them are in favor and some of them are not. They say Vikings don't live in caves. And then we talked a little bit about Viking cannibals and the possibility of new emotes for the future. Gwen, about that newest patch that came out, you want to tell us what one of your favorite parts of that update were?
Yeah. So as we covered last week, I think, we have a new reset map command, which allows you to clear all the markers and all the maps that you've copied over from a cartography table. And I can tell you, playing on a multiplayer server with over 100, 200 players, having one community table set up that has been up since the beginning of the server, since the very beginning when people were marking blueberries and raspberries on the map, it was getting so cluttered and it was actually causing lag. Whenever you opened the map, it was causing serious lag because of all the markers that needed to load. So we're so glad to have that reset map command now, so we can clean up all our maps, restart everything, and make sure that the community cartography tables are clean. So that's a really good addition. I've not tested it myself yet, but I've seen others already use that and clean up the maps. I can't wait to do it whenever I can hop on the game again. And yeah, I think it's one step in the right direction of improving the map and cartography table. I think there's a lot of other little tweaks and things that I would like to see in how the cartography tables work, but that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, that problem with opening the map and it lagging you instantly, and then you'd have to go and click to turn off the shared map table. It was so bad for me, especially because I started the server, and so I've read the map table from the beginning. It was so laggy that I actually found a mod that would reset that for me. So I had that available. But now that it's part of the actual game is really good, so players can take care of their individual maps as well. Well, and so there were a couple of hidden patch notes that didn't get published in the main patch notes, and luckily, Jiroc, one of the modders that I work with, he always looks up the in the code and sees what other changes they made, and so they did make a few other changes that they didn't publish. And the command force delete that they added during the Frost Cave update, you can now filter that by ID, meaning you can force delete only certain things. The normal thing was you type force delete and you set a range, which was a max of 20, and it would just delete everything within that range. But now you can actually say, I only want to remove this item. So you can put the item's code in there and then the range, and then it'll delete that. So that's pretty cool. So now you can choose what you want to get rid of instead of just getting rid of everything without mods, that is. And then they did increase the range. One of the other changes, they increased the range from 20 meters to 50 meters, which is a welcome because I do delete stuff a lot to do admin stuff and events and making videos. And it's nice to be able to delete a larger area. And then there's a find command in Valheim. And you type it in, it'll tell you wherever and you put the item ID and it'll tell you wherever it is in the world. But you had to know that item ID or go and look it up on the website. But now there's an autocomplete feature where if you start to type what you're looking for, it'll search everything with that term and then help you find the exact item ID code. So pretty cool especially if you ever lose your tombstone for my admins on my server or anybody playing on a single player. You can type find, and then there's a code. It's like player_tombstone or something like that. And it'll autocomplete for you. So it's easy to find. And then you can find the exact coordinates of your tombstone if it gets glitched into the ground or into a rock or a tree or something, even though this patch was supposed to fix that. But if it still happens, that's one way to find them if you don't see them right away. And
very nice.
Yeah, no, it's a great addition. And then, so there were some server events that we did. We have a tradition called the Great Folding and the Great Unfolding. I was going to ask you, Morning, if you would tell us what you think of that tradition when you first joined the server, and maybe describe it a little bit to our audience.
Sure. Initially, I thought it was incredibly generous. And I watch your live streams hungrily because I can never join the Great Folding or Unfolding because usually that's, wake up ritual and breakfast and dressing for my little one. But when I first joined, I was super impressed. I thought it was very generous, because you have this beautiful, rich, wonderful playground server, and you kind of want to leave some of the things intact, like the great stone pillars or the forests. And so, and also, I always was, under the impression that quote unquote server hopping was super cheatery.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I think it's incredibly generous that you have an entire other world that players can still go out and experience every 2 weeks, a new seed, and we can get a feel for some of the really good seeds. Like this week, I love this seed. I want the seed code. Like it was so good. And it's just a wonderful thing to be able to explore the richness and the experiences of every new world in Valheim, and being able to, have this huge community, with many hands makes light work. You have these vast hotels that are meant to house 50 or 60 players so that we can all have a single point that we all work from. And then we can come and back to the playground server and build these elaborate builds that, and even some of the new players that just joined, last week, they have incredible structures built already that would take weeks normally to get the resources. But because we have the resource server, we're able to do, allow creativity to be our limit and not resources, which kind of defeats certain purposes of the survival aspect of Valheim, but you're still out there surviving. You're still fighting the events. You're still, having all these different things happen. I can't tell you the last time I went tar farming and I was hit by the "you are being hunted" event 4 times in the same like 3 days of play. Not in-game days, but in real life days. 3 days I was hit by "you are being hunted" 4 times, and it was intense. So, there's still that survival aspect. And so I really do want to say that is a wonderful thing and a wonderful opportunity that you provide for your servers and for your community, because we are able to do all these different aspects, and it's really lovely.
Yeah. I was at first I was a little concerned trying to figure out how to keep the players having access to resources. And should I install a mod that reset the resources on the main server? There's a lot of problems with that because it could interfere with player builds, but it just dawned on me. Yeah, just let them server hop between the resource server. Yeah, you don't have to sail back with your metals, like because normally you can't take them through a portal because you can just server hop with them, but you still have to sail out to get them. So there is that.
Yeah.
And the other tradition with the reset every 2 weeks is we try to do an event on the server. And this week, Tulkas came up with a great idea for an event, and I helped him run it. Tulkas, can you tell us a little bit about that event?
Well, we had a siege event this time where I was role-playing Surtur, the giant of fire and the lord of Muspelheim from Norse mythology. And I before that I installed a voice mod, which so I could change my voice, and then I would use this to do a couple of NPC character lines and just.
So that was your voice. Oh, that was fantastic.
That was me. Yeah, just talking shit to the players and taunting them as they were. We had 2 castles. They had to defend 2 different locations to help with the lag. And the players had to defend a snow golem trophy. It was mounted on a 2-meter pole above ground at the very center of this castle. Then if this trophy would fall or be removed, then they would have lost. And then they had to fight off 3 waves of enemies. The first wave was trolls, Grey Dwarf Shamans, and Elder. All 2 stars, of course, by the way. Then we had the Abominations and Surtlings in the second wave. And the last wave was Fueling Shamans, Berserkers, and the Yagluf. So not to spoil the video, but the players lost.
You just spoiled it.
Yeah, sorry, but it still is just so fun to watch the struggle.
I mean, if they haven't watched that video by the time this podcast was released, then that's on them.
Yeah, it's your fault. Your fault for not being there when the stream was live. So, cry me a river. Yeah, but it was really fun to watch, especially at some point the other team was really struggling more than the other one, and at some point I was flying around in god mode, doing my role, playing my character, and I noticed the one castle was almost gone. The one part of the wall was just completely cleared out, and they had campfires there, like to have something to keep the enemies away. It was really hilarious to watch.
Right, but if you have all of these fire-based characters, do campfires even hurt them?
Yeah, that's the fun part, yeah. Because they had all the bonfires there, and Yaglov and the shamans were the next wave to come. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the one thing that I did that I probably won't do in the future, because Yagloth has that meteor strike and it's so powerful, is I positioned my admin character just above the part of the building that was protecting the stone trophy, the stone golem trophy that they had to defend, because if it falls off, they lose. And of course, Yagloth even though I can't be hurt because I'm in God mode, he targeted me. He nuked me with his meteor strike, and it completely destroyed the building and knocked the stone golem trophy off. So I felt kind of bad for baiting him there to do that instead of like a player who happened to be up there, not thinking that that was probably a bad place to stand. So that's what ended up losing it, because they were less than 2 minutes away from winning the event because it was a timed event. So when they lost, I felt a little bad.
Don't feel bad. They won so many times.
Oh yeah, they had fun though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one thing when you know it's 2 minutes and it was a good fight, and then it just was just bad luck in the end. It would have been something else if you would have dropped like maybe, I don't know, 12 serpents right on top of them. I remember something like that happening in the past when we were already on our way home on our ships, and you were a bit trigger happy.
Well, it wasn't my trigger happy. It was your players who were defying the gods with their smart talk.
So of course, yeah. Someone smart talking in the video, in the chat. They're like pulling
I think
you
I know.
into.
I think I know exactly who that was too.
Yeah, I was playing Loki, and they were talking bad about the gods. And I was going to say, haven't you seen Clash of the Titans? You talk bad about the gods, they send the Kraken to come and kill your city.
Yeah, right.
But one of the parameters, because you posted the message on Discord for the start of the event in like a role-playing text, and the final thing you said in there is that if any resources are removed from the castles, then Odin would bring his fury down upon them. So I don't know, was it maybe an hour or 2 or 3 later, I logged back onto the server and I went to those 2 castles, and one of them was completely gone. Just there was nothing left. And then I went to the second one, and somebody was there with workbench and a forge and a stonecutter's table, and they were just tearing down everything piece by piece to get free resources. You know, instead of having to go around the world and collect resources. So I brought Odin's fury and wrath down on them, and I spawned all 5 Forsaken bosses at spawn, gave them many more stars and tons of health. And I just said, "You've defied Odin. Now deal with it." And I left.
See, no mercy, no mercy.
The tricky thing was that the people who weren't a part of any of that and tried to log in, I was in the middle of building, and I needed to get some dragon eggs to my chandelier build for the chandelier contest. And I log in, and all of a sudden I'm hit by motor. I'm like, whoa, I'm in building food. What? Ah!
Well, see, that's where you implement peer pressure, right? So one person does something bad, the whole platoon has to suffer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they told me that they had fun with that event, killing those Forsaken. And secretly, I was kind of hoping that they would tear down the castles, because that's what they normally do to get easy resources, and then I could unleash Odin's wrath on them.
Please give me a reason to drop the nuke bomb on you.
Exactly. Okay, well, I think we're going to go to our interview with Monty. Okay, so today we're here with Iron Gate Community Manager Monty. Monty, it's so good to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from and what your role at Iron Gate is, and how you got involved with the gaming industry?
Absolutely. I'm Josefin, but also go by Monty online, which is what you'll probably see me as in the Discord. I am pretty much from the same area as Valheim has been developed in, so I fairly local, I guess. So a small town area in Sweden. I am the one of the community manager persons, which means I hang around the Discord and I do social media and such, and also write Steam posts, etc., etc.
I've seen your posts here and there. I noticed that you're also the one who seems to organize the fireside chats usually, especially if Devoid is involved.
I think that kind of started mostly
because I had a bit more time on my hands than Lisa did, since Lisa is she's my fellow community manager, but she's also one of our 3D artists. So it meant that I had a bit more time and I guess more of a general interest in like podcasts and audio. That ended up being me who did that.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as far as how you got into the gaming industry and, how it brought you to, end up working with Iron Gate?
It was a classmate of mine back in, I'm not sure what the exact equivalent would be in American or international school terms, but I think upper secondary is like some rough equivalent. A classmate of mine there, anyway. She had like her mind completely set that she was going to be a 2D artist, and she had this school in mind. And then I also looked that up, and I found that they had the game writing program, and so I applied for that and did that for 3 years. And then I did worked a bit as a journalist for a couple of years after that. But I was kind of like looking for like open job applications for writing and otherwise similar jobs like games. And then I found that Iron Gate had been they were looking for a community manager, which I applied for. The funny thing is that was when Lisa got that job, so I didn't get the job. But then just like it was just a few months later that the game was actually released, and I like kind of like heard on the grapevine that they were looking for more people. So I kind of just sent an email like, "Hey, you know who I am. Do you need more people?" And they were like, "Yes, please. We are swamped." And so that's when I came aboard.
It was amazing to see how big the game got so fast. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they needed extra help
Yeah.
real
And
soon.
the funny
after
thing
release.
is that Lisa would not have the reason that she kind of sort of like found out about the school where she also studied was because we met at a game conference, and I was like, "Hey, you should study games." And that's where we met, and that's how she studied games. So we kind of came full circle in the end, which is pretty funny.
That's awesome.
So again, small world and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Monty, I was wanting to ask, how big is the Valheim community and what does your day look like when it comes to managing that community?
It's hard to say how big the community is at whole, since it's like spread out across different platforms and all that. But the Discord server is, I believe, roughly 200,000 users.
Wow.
And then it's a lot. Thankfully, not everyone is like super active. We have a much smaller percentage that is like actually active and writes each day. But then there's, of course, Twitter has its own community and Steam has its own community, et cetera, et cetera. But day-to-day basis is like us community folks are also the ones who like check the emails and just so anyone who sends an email to Iron Gate goes through us. So it's checking that and checking all the social media, checking what people have replied to everything we posted, and if they've added us anywhere or if they have used any hashtags. I really like to, especially on Instagram and Twitter, if people share any fan art, I'm like, "Oh, I want to share that. Let's just retweet. Let's just put that on the Insta stories," because I think it's important to like show people's creativity, because that's always fun.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
But yeah, aside from like the those daily chores, it's also planning the social media and whenever we have videos or any screenshots, that's usually me or a combination of me and Lisa doing those.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who does the videos. Do you guys script that out and then one of you goes and shoots it with whoever you set up as the people involved? Like, what's that process like? Who mostly does like the video shooting and the video editing for those little promo videos you guys do?
It's usually me doing those. We had a bit more of an even split in the beginning, but since Lisa's moving more towards doing the 3D stuff, I am taking over more of the video stuff. But usually we try to like sometimes get from different angles. So sometimes both of us do recording and then we just sync all the raw material over with me, and I can put that into something slightly more manageable than a couple of hours worth of slowly building something, because it has to be pushed into only 1 minute, since that's usually the content limit for like Instagram, unless we want to put in an IGTV, but I don't want to do that. So 1 minute it is.
Different platforms have different limits.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about social media, especially because I'm a content creator too. I was just curious what works well for you guys. So all the different social media platforms, which platform seems to be some of the ones that you get the best interaction from?
I mean, every platform has its strengths and weaknesses, I'd say. Like if we're just looking at numbers and statistics, like Instagram is the one that has like the most interactions per followers, I think, because I think we have the least amount of followers on Instagram, but it's usually the pictures are usually the most liked, which is strange, but I guess it's easier to just like something on Instagram because it doesn't show up on other people's feeds the same way it does on Twitter.
Yeah, I was talking to Gwen the other day about the different places where Iron Gate promotes Valheim content, and I noticed you guys don't really have a YouTube presence. Like you post all the other things on the other social media platforms, but you don't post a lot on YouTube. Is there a reason?
I think it's mostly because since YouTube is obviously for videos, we try to focus just the longer videos on YouTube and keeping the shorter ones just directly onto Twitter or Facebook. Because I think, since if you put a YouTube video on Twitter, that's like you have to press the link, and on mobile it doesn't really work that well. So if I just manage to stick to the, in Twitter's case, 2 minutes limit, more people are just going to watch the video that way than if I just put a YouTube link, at least in my experience.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely recommend posting the actual video to the different platforms rather than just a link. But I notice your short form videos don't show up on YouTube. As a content creator, I could tell you get a lot of hits if you do. And since you guys don't do it on YouTube much, I find that when I sort of make my little videos that are like news about the videos that you're posting, I get a lot of hits. So I guess it's good for me because you guys don't post those shorter videos there. And I'm sort of most of my traffic comes from YouTube. I'd probably say about 95%. The social media platforms I don't seem to get a lot of interaction or views, but yeah, I just thought that was something interesting to bring up because, we were just talking about it the other day and we're surprised that your shorter videos aren't on there because I think you'd get a lot of interaction from YouTube if you did post them there.
Maybe that's something to consider. We'll see.
Yeah. Not that I want you to steal views from me or anything. And I just want to take a quick break from the show to share with you one of my sponsors, the Grimfrost, an amazing company that sells really, really cool Viking products. They have over 1,000 different modern and historical Viking products. If you're interested, you should check them out. I have a link in the description, or you can go to my website, jiroctheviking.com/Grimfrost. Now back to the show.
Since we've been already talking about social interaction, let's do some gossip here, shall we? Who from the Iron Gate team is the biggest Viking nerd?
I mean, if just by the amount of time that you put into Viking stuff, I guess I would have to say myself, given that I'm into reenactment and such. But I think there are probably more people who are like more into the Viking aesthetic, but I guess that's more the popular culture Viking TM biker Viking thing, which is not the same thing that I associate with being Viking. It is what it is.
Okay, so since you're the biggest nerd, who do you nerd out with within the? Who's the second biggest nerd that you have the most conversations with?
I think, well, maybe Robin, honestly, because since he's also done a bit of martial arts, so like sometimes we compare that because he's done kendo, and since I do the Viking Western style fight, we like sometimes compare like, what are the rules for that and what are the rules for that. And I know that he like does a bit of crafting at least in his spare time.
Cool.
Monty, do you have any videos of you performing your Viking fighting?
No, I don't. They're
what a
just like
shame.
some. I know that there's this one super early video from like when I just been at it for I don't know, a month or something, when it was a training weekend, and one guy who unfortunately had gotten into the habit of the dangerous sport of skateboarding and broke his collarbone just in time for that weekend, so he couldn't be with us and fight. So he managed to get a drone instead and tried to get some footage from that, but I'm not sure exactly where that footage is these days, and I'm probably not very good at it. Neither in my fighting nor in my clothes. So it's probably for the best that that's lost to the past.
At least you have fun doing it.
I do. It's a lot of fun, even with all the bruises.
So Monty, I have like a whole section of questions to nerd about around reenactment. But before we get into that, I did want to ask, like, when you're not working on Valheim, as in like the community management and things like that, how much do you play the game yourself? And what are some of the favorite things to do in the game?
These days, I unfortunately don't feel like I have the time to play a lot of games at all in my spare time. I don't know what happens with the time. It just kind of goes somewhere.
I feel the same way since I started creating content for Valheim. All the people on my server will tell you they get so excited if I play with them, one day, because I hardly ever get to play the game. I'm always busy making content or running the servers.
When I do mess around in the game, which I do during work hours sometimes at least, I do enjoy just building and trying to see what I can make, which is never as good as what I see other people making. So it's a bit of a letdown whenever I try to build stuff, but I try.
Yeah, there are some really talented builders out there. It makes me wonder if some of them have architectural degrees or just some kind of really fancy art background.
Yeah, I remember seeing it was sometime last year, someone who I can never decide what to build when I'm in the moment, so I have to sketch up all my buildings beforehand. And there were these super detailed and really beautiful, just sketches of tiny little Viking houses, and they were so pretty. And I was like, oh my god, you can do that too and build it.
See, and I feel that way about decorating. I always have these great building ideas, and they're still relatively basic, but still, But when it comes to decorating, I'm like, ugh, I can't do the organized chaos well. So before Gwen gets really into the reenactment stuff, I also wanted to ask: are there any new community events or engagement that you're looking forward to that's coming up?
I mean, we are hosting a giveaway right now, but that's going to be over by the time that this podcast is out, unfortunately.
Okay. I know I was reading about the upcoming fireside chat.
We don't have anything specific planned for that. I'm assuming it's likely that we're going to be able to make something like that when it's once again time for probably the Mistlands or something large. But those fireside chats are quite time consuming for us, as I have to sit down with both Robin and Richard, and we have to first of all do the recording, and then they have to have the time to listen to it and make sure that they're fine with saying what they're saying. And then it goes through a couple of rounds of editing, since it's all first the audio and then the video and then the subtitles. So it's quite a chore to do that. So we can't, unfortunately, do them as often, but they're always fun to have at least.
Yeah, Monty, I noticed that there's a fireside chat coming up with Grimcore and Lisa on the 22nd.
Yeah, that's not our kinds of fireside chats. That's with The Great Journey, which is an external. I think I'm not entirely sure exactly what it is, honestly, but I think they have a blog, and and obviously like some interviews things. So that's an external actor doing their own thing, and they are interviewing Rob and Elisa for that.
Oh, okay. And they're it sounds like they're maybe talking about a different game and not Valheim during that, is it?
I haven't gotten that much information about it, but I think it's gonna be about like both Valheim and both of their like journeys as developers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if you knew anything about that, but yeah, I remember seeing it
I
pop
don't
up
really,
on
I'm
Twitter.
afraid.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Well, yeah, I think this is the part where I go and start walking my dogs because Gwen's going to take over now.
What do you mean you're not interested in real Viking stuff?
I'm just teasing. I know Gwen has lots of questions, so I'm going to let her jump into it.
Yeah, so first of all, I was wondering if you were always a fan of Old Norse culture or if that came after Valheim. Like, which of the chicken or the egg came first?
Definitely came before Valheim, though I'm not sure exactly when I like started to like think, oh, Vikings are cool. But I think it was more of I think it was just like swords in general that I thought were nice. I started with cosplaying. Was it back in? Oh, when was it? 2017, I think. That I started with a bit of cosplaying. I did cosplay Senwar from Hellblade, which is my little Discord profile picture. If you can see it, if it's not too small. I did that in 2019, and that was around the same time that I also like discovered that, hey, there's actually a Viking group in the town that I live in, and they've been at it for 20 years, and I just had never heard about them before. And then I just kind of like sent them like an email, like, hey, can I join? And they said, sure, please do. And it turned out I was like the first recruit they'd had in a year and a half, and they were just delighted to have more people.
Cool. So when was that? How many years ago?
That was end of summer 2019, which meant that I had about half a year of like actually being part of the few events that there are in the fall, etc. But then 2020 happened. So I haven't actually been to any like markets or like bigger events. So that's going to be fun to actually be able to do that very soon.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
So you were mentioning earlier that you do historical reenactment, and I just wanted to ask, as part of that Western and as part of that Western style Viking fighting, tell us more about that.
So Western style, there's basically a Western style and Eastern style, though the definitions are a bit loose, I guess. Eastern style is a bit more rough. It means blows to the head, and like they're not as careful. But in Western style, we're a bit more careful. We don't allow blows to the head, and we like try to be, considerate of everyone's like hands and knees and all other delicate parts of the human body. We try not to hit those too much. Though of course, slip ups happen. But yeah, so it's we fight with steel weapons, except they're blunted, of course. But there's Sayax knives, swords, axes, spears of various sizes. We poke each other with metal until someone gets hit.
Oh, my apologies, good sir. I didn't mean to smash my axe into your skull. My sincere apologies.
That is called a headshot, and that is when the person who did the headshot gets the loss instead of the person who got hit, because you're not supposed to do a headshot.
So is it like, because I'm familiar with these sort of systems, do you also have rules where it's like, it's all based on hit points and the hit zones are kind of from knee all the way up and avoiding the head and the neck and on the arms just above the elbow?
Yeah,
like
those are the
short zones.
Yeah, we use those.
And so that would be the main difference between that and Eastern style, which would be, as you said, head blows are allowed. And are you allowed to hit like pretty much anywhere with Eastern style?
I'm not too familiar with the Eastern style, except that I know that you have to wear a helmet, otherwise bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have as many hit points. It's not much of a thing. It's just if you do get a hit, that's it. Then you've lost the fight, unless you do armor points, which means that if you're wearing a helmet despite it being Western style, or if you're wearing like some sort of
Mail.
Yeah, mail. So splint mail is usually the common. Like that gives you an armor point, which means that you just count one, and then people have to hit you twice to like take you out of the fight.
Is there any weapon you prefer over the others to use in combat? Like, for example, I did sport fencing for quite some time, and I've always been fascinated with swords, especially when I started, watching Star Wars with the elegant sword fighting, and it's kind of kept stuck since then. So, what do you prefer for fighting?
So, sword is definitely my favorite. I like swords, but there's also, of course, it depends on the like situation. If you're in a line fight, you do want to have a spear, because you're not going to be able to reach someone as good with a sword as with a spear. And if you're in that situation, it's always like then it's a spear and knife combo, because you're like so fast with a knife compared to any other weapon, really, because they don't weigh anything comparatively.
Yeah, I had it like with the I was doing a little bit of HEMA with some elderly and then in comparison with sports fencing, it's just the two worlds. So you have the light light sword, and then the two-handed one. It's a big difference, especially the movement, etc. So
yeah, we don't have two-handed swords. It's just the one-handed swords in Viking fighting.
They're still quite heavy though, compared to like a knife. Or
they weigh around a kilo. Is a bit give or take, depending on the sword, but around a kilo.
So, do you prefer the sword in Valheim as well, or does it? Is there anything different there?
In Valheim, it's either sword or axe, because I think the axe looks cool. I wish I was good with an axe in real life, but I'm not. So
sounds like you have a lot in common with. Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like you have a lot in common with Gwen. She said almost exactly those same words.
Yeah, axes are really cool in game because they're also very multifunctional.
Yeah,
you can use them to chop wood as well as protect yourself and stuff. But in real combat, axes are pretty tough to master.
I do remember though when we back before the Hearth and Home weapon rebalance, or while we were doing the rebalance, and we had like come to that decision that it's going to be knives are going to be the fastest weapon in the game, and I had come back like from a fighting practice evening, and I had used a knife for the first time in a long time. And I was like, wow, they are so fast. We just did the exact correct thing in the game, because knives really are super fast. Well done, us.
Yeah. The knife is my favorite weapon in game for sure. Yeah.
Monty, I was going to ask you, can I put you down for team throwing axes or not team throwing axes
in the game?
Yes. We're just getting a poll on what if people would like it or not.
I mean, more kind of weapon versatility is always nice. So sure, why not?
Yeah, we got Jonathan to say he was on team throwing axe also. He thought it was a cool idea, but I know there's lots of cool things going, and we're always excited to see them when they come. But it's also fun to speculate or just discuss the what ifs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so with your fighting experience and your experience with reenactment and such, do you sometimes like try to influence certain things being developed in the game, whether they're weapons, armor, things like that, try to bring in some of your experience and knowledge to the game?
Yeah, I try. I'm not sure as to what percentage I'm actually successful, but I do try. It'll be like, they'll be like, oh, this looks Viking. I'm like, well, it's not actually Viking. But sometimes Rule of Cool, unfortunately, has to win because, like the general public's image of Vikings is unfortunately not the reenactors' image of Vikings, and
Yeah.
the majority of the players are not reenactors, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I wanted to ask you as well if you also do living history displays on top of the fighting. Like if you go to markets and festivals, do you do like an impression?
Like I said, I unfortunately joined right before the pandemic happened, so there hasn't really been that much opportunity for it. But there is a market coming up in a couple weeks that I'm excited to go to. We'll be living in tents and cooking
Nice.
over open fire, and there will be fighting as well. Going to be
Cool.
as far as I have heard, 50 people in a 30-meter diameter circle, which is going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when the bodies start piling up.
Yep.
Just one big cuddling party.
Yeah, with
Full of
spears.
sweaty-
Is it a spear, or are you just happy to see me?
Oh, the tales I could tell that are not appropriate for anything that I have not witnessed, but I have heard the tales and I could retell them, but I should not.
Oh no.
Ugh. Spears
Like
going
weapons
where they should not be.
Yeah. I can picture.
And so at that event, Monty, that you're going to be attending, will everybody be in costume as well?
Yeah, as far as I know, at least. Usually, shoes are somewhat optional because historical shoes are not as comfortable and not as sturdy, unlike not as resilient if you have to walk on asphalt and gravel and such. But to everyone's ability, I think everyone's going to be in costume.
So we can forgive the people who wear Nikes with their costume and horned helmets, right? Because it's cool.
Less Nikes, more like hiking boots that are as discreet as possible.
Yeah. But the horned helmets are okay, right?
Sure, if that's
No,
what you
they're
want
not.
to hear.
Well, it's just interesting because like Vikings didn't even really call themselves Vikings, right? And then
I mean, Viking was a profession. It wasn't
Yes.
people.
Yeah, exactly. And the horned helmets came from them being romanticized, more recently. What was it like?
Same with the
Victorians.
the Germanic shield maiden thing, where
Yeah.
she's in her boob armor.
Well, they
Right.
were
All that.
described as devils, and devils have horns, so go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, are you picking up or looking at picking up any crafts? I appreciate you probably didn't have the opportunity to do much living history yet, but is there any crafts that you are thinking of taking up? You mentioned sewing earlier.
Yeah, I am sewing right now. And sewing is very nice to if you're like me and need to have something to do with your hands while talking or listening to things. Hand sewing is very, very nice to do that, as well as needle binding, which is
Oh yeah. Nail binding?
reminiscent of like crocheting, but it's older, and instead of using a hook to like pull the same strand of yarn through an entire garment, you have to like pull apart shorter strings of yarn and you sew it instead of crocheting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some really nice things. Usually hats and gloves and things like that made with nail binding. But yeah, so what are you working on? You said you were working on a new
I'm just
shirt?
doing a
A
little
tunic?
wool tunic, for the season.
Do you ever make those things for your friends or other people, or even try to put some of those up on Etsy?
No, I do not have the time and patience to like run an Etsy store, and also like trying to replicate things. It's not one of my strengths either. Like I am lucky and happy when I manage to make a pair of socks that look the same. But I like occasionally will like do like a hat for someone I know and trade for something else.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. Is yeah, someone who's good at leather craft, for example, and someone who's good at sewing or embroidery, just trading crafts, and yeah, it's good because yeah, everyone's good at something or interested in some things, and there's just so much that goes into building your own kit, from the clothing to the like all the accessories and tools that you need to carry to other things as well, to the food that you're going to eat and that kind of stuff. So it's good to have a diverse group with people interested in different crafts.
I'm trying to hopefully get my friend to get me a new handle for my Sayx because his dad hunts, so he can like get his hands on
antlers.
I think it's either moose or raw deer. I'm not sure exactly, but they can probably fix that for me, and I can fix socks for him.
It's really cool. And for those listening who don't necessarily picture what Viking, like traditional or original Viking clothing looks like, can you describe us what your typical outfit would look like? Because I suppose you probably have two, right? You have the one for fighting and then the one kind of on camp.
Yeah, I do either for fighting or dresses is essentially the two categories that I have. But picture History Channel's Vikings and then just forget all about that. It's a good start.
Leather, the biker pants, the studded leather everywhere. Just put that in the bin and burn it, please.
Yeah. But no, the for dresses, it's usually you'll want a base of just a very simple linen dress. Ideally non-dyed, because from what I understand, dyeing linen is like historically difficult.
It's expensive. It's resource and time intensive.
So a plain linen dress underneath, and then either an apron dress, which is those dress with straps and the fibula buckles on each side with couple of beads between, which is like the fancy dress. I've made a wool dress, which is just the exact same pattern as the linen dress, but thicker and for a top layer, which is warmer and a bit more everyday clothing kind of style than the apron dress.
I can actually. Have you ever made your own beads before?
I have not. I ordered from a craftswoman in Germany who makes them from finds, and I'm really happy with those. They're really nice. But glass blowing seems very tricky.
Oh yeah. I know I've made my own bone, antler, and wooden beads before, but yeah, glass blowing beads is out of my realm.
Yeah, I've done like some wooden buttons again for a cosplay, but that's the extent of that.
Do you have any pictures of your outfits that you could you'd be happy to share? I think one of your is it your Twitter profile?
And it's on my Instagram as well, which I think is linked on my Twitter. So there are some pictures there for those who want to see that, I guess. And then for fighting, which is, I guess, the traditionally more male outfit, I guess. It's same thing with a linen base shirt, which is just the exact same thing as the dress, except it's much shorter. It's the same patterns for everything, which is quite convenient. And again, same with the woolen tunic. It's exactly the same thing as a dress, but shorter. Usually a bit above, just above knee length. And then for trousers, I would at some point like to make those super baggy, super fabric-y trousers.
Yeah, the MC Hammer pants.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone
They have
around
an actual
to
name,
do that
but
yet.
I call them that.
Yeah, Haitabu, I think is the trousers, but I've just done the slim fitting ones, and then you have leg wraps. So you roll your legs up in a long piece of ribbon like a horse.
Yeah, they're called winnegas, right?
I'm not sure exactly if that's what they call in English, but in Swedish we just literally call them leg wraps.
Leg wraps, yeah.
But I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, well, we call them that. So I do 12th century reenactment. So just after, pretty much the period after when the Vikings took over from the Anglo-Saxons, and then the Normans took over from the Vikings, pretty much. But yeah, we see a lot of things in common, a lot of aspects of the clothing that has evolved. But apparently Normans made a point of trying to look really as far as different as possible as the Vikings, which is interesting. So they changed a lot of the silhouettes and the shapes, but yeah, in some parts of England, like in Wales, they were still wearing winnegas. They were still using round shields when the Normans were around. So
I think what I like most about making historical garments is that there is just almost no fabric waste. Everything is just squares and rectangles. Meanwhile, like modern clothing is a lot of like curves and turns and twists and darts everywhere. But Viking clothing is just, it doesn't have to be that shaped. You just shape it with a belt at the waist, and that's the shaping that you get.
Yeah, that's also why I am quite happy to have gotten into that kind of reenactment and not later periods, because the further you go in history, the more complicated everything gets. And I don't think my sewing skills are up to scratch with later periods. But yeah, you're right. Like early medieval is still, everything is rectangles and triangles sewn together, which is perfect. Is there any specific elements or items of Viking clothing that you hope or you wish to see in Valheim?
I mean, I would love to just like have some everyday clothing at some point, because I think that would be neat.
Yes.
But the issue that we have, because we have discussed it, and I know that several people like are interested in it, but it's just that they have to fill some sort of like mechanical function. Like, what stats do they give? Like, why would you wear this non-armor clothing? Why is that better?
To hang around, do your cooking, do your building,
Well, you just something to take care of your fields. Like, come on, I'm not going to do the heavy work on while planting crops in full armor.
But then you would want like some sort of stat buff that would like improve your farming or improve your cooking while wearing that, and that's the thing that we haven't really been able to fix yet.
Yeah, we were talking about that on our podcast last week, or I think it was last week or the week before. I forget now. But we were saying it would be awesome to have utility clothes, because all the clothes seem to be combat oriented. But really, Valheim for many people is more of a crafting and building game. Yeah, and then there isn't really anything for the crafters. Like one of our admins who was on the podcast said it would be great to have tiered hammers, right? For the builders, there's so much building to have different tiered hammers that give different bonuses and stats to help with building, and then also clothes, because right now. Right, you don't have much health unless you eat, and you run out of stamina pretty quickly. You move fairly slow, especially if you're in like your bigger armor. I know probably a lot of people are now using the Fenris armor because they can move around a little faster for building. But yeah, just an idea to throw around at the conversation table.
I would definitely like to have some everyday clothes. I think that would be great. Yeah. But it's the having to make them to gamify them a bit. Yeah, and then
I mean, just ask Gwen what I do when I'm gardening in Valheim.
What do you
She
do when you
strips
go
naked,
out?
naked with only your what is it? Your wolf cape for some reason.
Yeah, just in case it gets cold.
As you do.
Well, I actually just got an idea about this whole thing. You maybe like a smithing code that maybe reduces crafting costs. Like, so you need less materials maybe to make items,
Or
like
clothes that prevent you from getting smoked out.
yeah, hinting at you, Gwen.
Gwen can tell you about that.
Yeah. Or like farmer tools that lets the crops grow faster for some reason. I don't know. Just
Or
come
a
on,
cooking
please.
apron that helps you cook the breads quicker in the oven. Reduce the time for that.
Yeah, this is just something like, come on. Why do we need a reason? Just let us have fun. Jesus, it cannot be this hard.
Well, it's funny with the cape bug. I always see Gwen running around with it in front of her, so it looks like an apron.
Yeah, that's why I wear it. That's why I picked a white one, because I knew of the slight glitch in the game sometimes, and I just thought it would look fun. But to kind of validate what everyone is saying, the resounding yes when we were talking about having just everyday clothes. A lot of us, because we are a multiplayer server, and a lot of what we do is just hang around with other players and visit each other's bases or build and stuff like that. We don't fight all the time or grind all the time. We all kind of have our own like outfits that we make up. So I'm always wearing my troll tunic because I like it. It's blue. It's nice. It's a different color than the rest of the armor. With my padded pants and my white cape, like. Morning Darkness, you've got your own kind of style and outfit too. And a lot of players end up doing that just so that they have a bit of customization and they don't all look in like they're in padded armor. But that's another thing that I know a lot of players want as well, is just customization, like being able to color your armor in different colors like you do with the linen capes, for example. That would be so great.
I think a lot of the reasons that we haven't made like more customization stuff such at the moment is that we try and like prioritize Mistlands and like because a lot of things we would like to do, but if we do them, that's taking time away from the content TM that people are asking for, and like which we obviously want to put out as well. But of course, at some point you have to choose.
Yeah, that's all the stuff that we'll hopefully get once the game is fully released, and then we'll get more stuff like that. But just going back to the reenactment and to the history side of things, I think there's a lot of interesting things that can be put in the game relating that we can relate to the customization, like dyeing your fabrics. You need to go and find the dye stuffs to be able to dye your cape or your armor a different color, that kind of stuff. Embroidery.
That was like actually one of my original because when I applied for the job, like one of the tasks was make up a news post and just make up some new features and just write about them. Doesn't matter if they're in the game or if they are realistic, just write about them. And I remember one of the things I wrote about was plant dyeing specifically. Like, you can use onions to make things red, and you can make things yellow, and you can use madder to make things red. And all that. So that's something I'm aware of, at least, that it's a thing. But
we have the onions, we have the dandelions, we have the carrots. Carrot tops were used for dyeing as well. Very effective for dyeing. We already have
birch leaves are as well.
And blueberries made purple.
Yeah, they do. I'm not sure how well they that sticks as a dye though.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen people use blueberry leaves actually for a green color.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways to make it happen.
Yeah,
it's a game. Just make it work.
Well, final kind of reenactment related question, and that one is more for laughs. All
right.
So, what's your pet peeve or your like the popular myth about Vikings that you'd like to dispel? Because we all know all reenactors have one. We already dispelled the myth of the leather pants biker Vikings. What's one that you would like to break?
What to choose from all of the Vikings, the TV show. one thing that extremely bothered me when I was watching Vikings Valhalla. I have a lot of opinions on that show, but let's not go there. But one thing that extremely bothered me was like I don't know if you've seen the show, but at one point because they made a whole thing like the pagan Vikings versus Christian Vikings, and so no, it wasn't that big of a deal. But there's this one scene where some of the pagan Vikings are just chilling at a stream, and there comes a Christian Viking, and he sees that one character has a necklace with a rune on it, and he decides that these are pagans, and he kills all of them. I'm like, that's the alphabet. You just killed someone for having the letter R on a necklace. The majority of rune stones in I'm not sure if it's in all of Sweden, but definitely at least in the area where I live, the majority of the rune stones are Christian rune stones made by Christian Vikings, because those are the ones that have survived. So like, runes do not automatically mean pagan. Runes are just an alphabet, and a lot of people in the Viking Age could read and write. It's theorized, because why else would you put out these rune stones if people were mostly illiterate? So like, runes do not equal being like believing in Odin and the other Aesir. Like it's just an alphabet.
That's like
Writing
me wearing a C and then someone claiming I'm a Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we write with Arabic numerals. That doesn't mean that we're all Muslim. It's just numbers that we use.
Yeah, maybe it's just someone was looking for a reason to create an intense scene. Then they just went with the first idea that someone threw into the circle.
Yeah. So that's something I find very silly.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing. I must admit, I stay away from the series Vikings. Even though I know the story, I'm sure the story is great and very gripping and all of that. I just find it's too much full of cliches that I think I wouldn't enjoy it. I've become one of those annoying people where I can't watch period dramas without commenting on how inaccurate the clothing is.
Yeah. No, I was watching it, I was like aggressively like nail binding, just like I have to do this or else I will go mad.
Yeah, like the first series Vikings, it was pretty good actually, pretty nice. But then I've heard like a lot of controversial things about Vikings Valhalla about regarding the reviews. But I'm looking forward to what's the upcoming movie? What's it called, The Northman?
Oh,
that's something that looks interesting.
Yeah, big budget movie. Well, I know you guys are talking about you being. It's hard to watch a Viking show or movie because you're seeing all of the inaccuracies. You'd hate to watch a movie with me. I've been a filmmaker for 25 years, writing and directing projects, and I am terrible to watch movie or TV with because I complain about everything that they're doing wrong. I just don't understand the lack of critical thinking or research in Hollywood these days. The stuff they put out drives me absolutely nuts.
Big agree.
It's probably like going to a restaurant with me. I work as a chef. I work as a chef in real life. So whenever I walk into a restaurant, I start, just looking around casually and checking things out.
Remind me never to cook for you then, Tilkis.
I would love to if someone would cook for me for once.
Oh.
It's like, hey, I have a friend here. He can cook for us. Yeah, like, okay. Fine. I just want to enjoy the evening, but I guess I will start cooking again.
Well, I get that too. Whenever there's an event going on, people will say, they don't say it anymore because I've shut them down, but they say, oh, hey, Phil, we're going to do this thing. Can you bring a camera and record it? And I say, no. Are you crazy? Hire somebody to do that. I ain't going to do it. This is my time off.
Yeah.
But
I'm the guy sitting in the chair telling everyone what to do. You don't ask me to record.
yeah, I've done all that back in the day. Well, Monty, we're coming up on an hour here, and I just want to say it's been such a pleasure to talk with you and to learn about who you are and what you like to do a little bit in your free time, especially looking at your Instagram page. You have so many amazing photos in here and all the costumes. I can just tell you really love it. And it actually inspires me to look more into trying to put together my Viking costume because
thank you.
I'm serious, Jiroc. I will help you with that.
Yeah, no, I'm growing my beard out.
Can I just sanity check everything before you order stuff, Jiroc? Because if you show up in some leather biker stuff, I will not talk to you anymore.
Well, I was going to order all my stuff from the TV show, right?
No.
I'm just gonna get a bear pelt, and that's about it.
Do the like they did in Game of Thrones, just get an IKEA fur and just cut out a hole for the head.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Monty.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for telling us all these wonderful things.
I hope you don't have to edit too much.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Pleasure was definitely on our side.
Thank you.
I think that'll do it for this week. Thanks for joining me, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, wonderful as always.
That's it for now. Have fun out there.
You want to do the ending again? Because I think I talked into Gwen's audio.
No, it's okay.
No, it says on the script, everyone responds however they want to, awkwardly and at the same time.
Oh, that's staying in. Thank you for listening to Podheim, Jiroc's Valheim podcast. We have new episodes coming out every Friday, and if you enjoyed listening, please support us by subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a rating and a review to help more Vikings find us. We also have a Patreon with perks for supporters like behind-the-scenes discussions, exclusive content, and segments that are edited out of the main podcast. And if you'd like to join our friendly Discord community, we have more than 1,000 people there. Just go to discord.gg/Jiroc the Viking. If you'd like to play on my Valheim servers, just go to my website at jiroctheviking.com and submit an application. I'd like to give a huge shout out to my supporters, some of them on Patreon, the YouTube membership, and the ones who help boost our Discord server. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to make more videos, as well as run a community Discord and multiple Valheim gaming servers. If you enjoy my videos and would like to support my work, join our friendly Discord community and Valheim servers. Links can be found in the description below. Skål!